I learned about myself that you don't find the time, you make the time. You'll never find the time for the important stuff. It's always, oh, well, I'll find time. It just never happens. You got to make the time. If that means staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning, that's what it means. I approach ownership and leadership from the rep's perspective, from the leadership's perspective. I'm going to do everything I can to not put my leadership in unnecessary situations.
And one thing that kind of attracted me to the organization was, you know, we were kind of on the same page about how we wanted it to grow. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what that looks like for us is, I mean, the best description is organically, right? We want it to grow organically. So yeah, 10 to 12 offices. If it turns out to be 20 offices down the road, great. But whatever that looks like, we want it to happen organically. Mm-hmm. So, you know, can you explain a little bit what you would see, what your vision would be in terms of organic growth, what that recruiting process would look like?
Yeah, so great question. You know, that organic growth, a big part of it is, you know, the things that we've already done. It's things that I've been doing for essentially my whole life. It's being a good person. It's having a solid work ethic and a solid reputation. That's part of why I've done so good just recruiting in general in the industry. That former company that you and I had worked for, I was their number one warm recruiter. So they had hired recruiters, you know, they run Indeed ads and stuff. But in terms of just like, hey, straight rep that knows people and talks them into coming and work for us and they do well, that was something I did really well with. And it wasn't because I was good at talking people into working with, you know, coming to work for us. It was just, you know, I've maintained a solid reputation throughout my life. And so when people see me doing something, you know, they're more likely to, I guess, recognize and trust it just because I'm not like a bullshitter, you know? So yeah, that's something that I think it comes down to just who we are as individuals. We'll have organic growth just because of the integrity that we have. But more onto that is, you know, part of the reason why we're having this podcast, right? It's one thing to have like a fancy Indeed ad or whatever. Hey, come work for us, blah, 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 great opportunity. It's another thing for, you know, someone to be maybe even looking for content like this and they come across it and, you know, we start kind of singing the song they like to hear, or they see that we're on the path that they're on, and then they're attracted to it. We're attracting like-minded people. And I think that's a huge part of the organic growth is the attraction of like-minded people, because we're high-level individuals. We take our life seriously. We take our work seriously. We have families, you know, like we have priorities, and we just like, I just genuinely want to be the best person I can be. I want to have the highest impact that I can have on people. Making money is number 4 on my list of why I do what I do. Having an impact on people is number 1. So I think just the fact of the integrity of the business, who we are, what we stand for, the work ethic, the reputation will continue to precede itself. And over time, you know, it's in the words of our friend Joel, we're doomed to succeed.
Yes.
So, but, you know, and we will do Indeed ads and LinkedIn and things like this, you know, but for the most part, it's allowing people to understand who we are, what we stand for, and start attracting like-minded individuals. I think that's a big part of what's going to allow us to organically grow. And the less that we make it like a focal point, you know, because if I try to force it down y'all's throat, it's almost like, you know, dad's trying to tell us to do something. Let's not do it because dad wants us to, you know. It's more like people recruit just because they like it. You know, they're not being forced to, they're not being told to. They recruit because they enjoy it, and because they enjoy it, they want to share that opportunity with someone else.
Yep.
And that's pretty much why I recruited people into it, because I enjoyed it. It made a difference for me. And if it can make a difference to me, maybe it can make a difference to you too.
Right.
And so there's been some people I've recruited, and it's really awesome to see their lives change, you know, because I know how my life's changed. I've seen many people's lives change, but to have that personal connection of be the guy that actually brought them in, you know, had those conversations. You know, I have certain guys that took me years to get them into the industry, you know, and they finally made the decision, and then their lives were changed, you know. And it's not everyone. I mean, for the most part, most of the people I've brought in have done well over time. But that doesn't mean it's going to be everyone, because again, everybody's commitment levels are different, their lives are different, and timing. You know, the only reason why anyone doesn't buy windows from me, it's timing. It's never just because I did a bad job or something like that. It's timing. But I think it can be the same with reps as well. Sometimes just whatever's going on in their life, just the timing's not right for them to commit to something like this. Mm-hmm. For me, the timing was perfect for me to commit to something like this, especially because I was in the initial stages of getting into separation and then eventual divorce. Well, guess what? The first couple of years I had in this industry, I didn't have a significant other. I just go ham, you know? So that was something that really allowed me to have a leg up, would be that, you know, I didn't have to answer to no one. I just answered to myself and the owner of our former company, and was really able to make a lot happen quickly because I was able to commit so much to it, you know? So not everybody's going to obviously have the ability to commit to certain levels like that. Some people do, some people don't. But at the end of the day, if you can at least commit to getting better and being consistent, like, again, you're doomed to succeed. That's all you got to do. Be consistent and just work on getting better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
As far as the scripts, the training, the structure, it's all there. Like, we have everything set up to make money. We've been doing, this is my 6th year in the industry. So, I mean, it's all there. It's just, we're looking for the right people.
Yep.
You know, and looking for people, like, I don't want someone that just wants a job. Like, we want people that want an opportunity. People that have the base level of their life handled, and we could really show them the high level stuff to make a difference in their life. We're leaders, we're not babysitters. So if you're an individual where you're looking for more in this life, you're looking for a solid group of people to get around, you're looking for a great opportunity to make some money, to really level yourself up, you know, this is the spot.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would just say that if you're in a position where you want to change your life, that's who we're looking for. Yep. We're looking for people that they're ready to change their lives. They're ready to move on to the next thing and really plant themselves into a career. What most people don't understand is the opportunity, not just from a personal development standpoint, but to literally change your life forever from a financial standpoint. You know, my first year, I never imagined that I'd be able to make this level of income from doing door to door. You know, I always knew that I would be good at sales. I've got that natural charisma and kind of exude confidence. Mm-hmm. But, you know, my first year, before even getting into leadership, I made over $200,000 my first year and almost $400,000 my second year. And that was before even getting into leadership. Yeah. That's just knocking doors, baby. Closing deals, sitting across the table from homeowners just like this, and kind of being yourself. But, you know, there is a huge level of commitment that is involved there. I think it's important for people to realize that before moving into or even entertaining something like this. Like you said it yourself, your first couple of years, you didn't have a significant other, so you were able to make that commitment and go all in. And for those that do have a significant other, making sure that they're bought in to the vision is everything. Like, it's not going to go anywhere. And, you know, I've got an amazing wife, and she was I'm just so blessed because she was so committed to my success. Mm-hmm. And because my success is our success.
Yeah.
You know, it's not me, hey, look at me, me, me. It's look at us. Check us out. And my first year and a half in the door-to-door industry, in Windows specifically, we were doing what are called pods. And we were leaving for a week at a time to go to a small town and do a blitz with a small group of guys. And then we would come back for a week. And then we would be gone for a week, and then we'd come back for a week. So I'm leaving my wife at home. And a couple months into this, I have my first baby, right? And so I'm leaving my infant and my wife at home for a week at a time. And then when I come back, I'm still going. Going.
Yeah.
You know, I take a day off or whatever, and then I'm still going. And if you're good, you're needed. If you're excellent, then you're needed all the time. So it's less likely that you're going to have that freedom to just take that time off. So it's a huge commitment time-wise. And it's mentally draining. I think that my travel schedule changed at the exact right time, because there's no amount of money in the world that will put me in a position to miss the childhood of my offspring.
Yeah,
you know?
they grow quick. You leave for that week and you come back, it's like, whoa.
He's walking, talking.
Yeah. What'd I miss?
Yeah, throwing shit at the wall now. And so, yeah, I think it is an amazing opportunity. And we're looking for people that are in a position and prepared to change their lives. But I think that one thing that works really well for us is the culture that we have created at the company already and will continue to foster makes it naturally and organically attractive to other people. People want to be a part of it, but a big part of that for me is honesty and transparency. Because, you know, working with other people, you know, wasn't always the case with certain people. You know, you would get these new recruits coming in that think that they're going to just be making money that same week. And it's not always the case. Sometimes there is a little bit of delay, just like with any other job. You're not going to show up to a W-2 job and make a paycheck that Friday. I think it's important to understand that there could be a little bit of a delay. So being transparent about that, but also the level of commitment required to move up is pretty extreme. You can come in and you can knock doors forever, and you can make great money knocking doors, and you can have the schedule that you want or whatever that looks like for you. But if you're trying to move up and really change your life forever, and not just your life, but your family's life and your family's generational wealth, if you're looking to achieve that, it's going to be a big commitment time-wise. And I think it's important that we are transparent about that.
Yeah, and I think it's just transparent about everything as much as possible. Expectations are everything. And so when I set expectations with anyone coming into the business, we're going to honor those expectations. There's a lot of great things about the company I worked for. One thing, though, was expectations were changed quite frequently.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm a very easygoing person when it comes to stuff like that. Like, personally, I don't like it. Like, if my wife changes plans or whatever, it's like, no, we're not. But with work, like, you know, I can be pretty flexible and everything like that, or I was. But at the same time, like, when expectations change all the time from, say, like an ownership perspective, and then you put that on your leadership to then take that down the line and have them deal with it and all the blowback and everything, and then you're just sitting there, you know, doing whatever you're doing, and I'm dealing with all the shit show. Like, I approach ownership and leadership from the rep's perspective, like from the rep's perspective, from the leadership's perspective. And I'm not gonna, I don't want to say intentionally, but I'm gonna do everything I can to not put my leadership in unnecessary situations. Like, there's enough pressure in door-to-door full commission jobs to where we don't need unnecessary pressure on people. You know, that's where the expectations, the standards, the culture all come into play. Like, you want to come and like half-ass it, you're not going to be here very long. Like the system's set up to where people they can't survive in that. But yeah, to just touch on a couple things that you spoke about. For one, the spousal support is huge. We could have the best candidate ever, and their spouse doesn't support them. Yeah, they could be good for a couple months, but it's not a long-term, there's no long-term viability without any spousal support. And you know, how that looks to get them bought into it, it can be different. I think it's important to have them, you know, get associated with the team a little bit, with the organization, come to an event, get to know us, get to know me, get to know you, really get a feel for the individuals and the collective. And a big thing for me is like, I have guys' wives that are super like skeptical and all this stuff. And then they meet me and then they're like, okay, I'm cool.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
But you know, cause they hear stuff. Well, it's high ticket, it's commission, it's door to door. Does it seem like a scam or whatever? But then usually when they meet me, and like I said, it's kind of like people can tell authenticity. You know, they could tell someone's bullshitting or whatever. And yeah, there are scam artists out there. I'm not a scam artist. I'm a genuine person. And so yeah, that really helps. And as much as we can provide support for like kind of spousal support, you know, that is something I would like to put a priority on with the business. You know, because especially as a leader, as a closer, your best ability is your availability. And this is where organization and communication really comes into play, because you can accomplish everything you need to accomplish as a closer and a leader and still accomplish everything you need to as a husband and a father or whatever roles you play in life. But it takes intention, it takes organization, it takes communication. And just to make sure that your wife or your significant other, that spousal support is in regular communication about why it is that you're doing what you're doing, you know, and set the expectations, the framework of how it's all going to work. Like my wife, you know, now as a business owner, she's very much like, you know, and she's a partner in the business, you know, so she gets it. It's all, you know, it's basically all gas, no brakes right now. But in kind of setting up because we got married and had our relationship when I worked as the regional director for the former company, which required like 12 to 14 hours a day of my time. And I just really like, even dating, like, because when we started dating, I actually wasn't even officially running the office. Like I was, but like I wasn't getting an override or nothing. But I remember telling her like, no, I run the office. I'm going to be the regional. I'm going to be all this. And this is what it's going to take for me to get there. You know, so like communicated everything that I was doing, what I was responsible for, and why I was doing it.
Yep.
Because it wasn't like, you know, this is what's going to be our life for the next 30 years until we retire. No, this is an opportunity for us to make a lot of money right now and retire early.
Yes.
So we're gonna pay now and play later.
Yes.
You know, and there is some playing you can do in the middle of it. Like I said, some organization, some communication. You can have all the fun you want to have and still get all the work done that you need to do. But that spousal support and everything we can do as an organization to foster that is super important, because it goes a long way.
Yep.
And then also just the commitment level to leadership. You know, it kind of is, I've already kind of more or less covered that, but it is a commitment level. It's because knocking doors as a coordinator, I mean, it's a great position, because you have flexibility. You can get deals closed when you're not even working. You can set multiple appointments for a single time slot and get them. I mean, you can scale your efforts. Because as a director, like a closer, it's 1-for-1. A deal's not getting closed if you're not there. Right. So it's always directly 1-for-1. Whereas a coordinator is not 1-for-1. And with our commission structure, a coordinator gets 3 deals in a week. They're getting paid director pay anyway. So back in the day when I started, coordinators we really didn't make much. And director was really the only path to actually making life-changing money within Windows. Everything's since changed. Few reasons. One was because just not everybody's built to be a closer. Certain guys, they just don't have the social awareness to put it all together and get out there and do as well as they do as a coordinator. That's just the truth of the thing. And so it allowed for essentially paying those coordinators more. It allowed for guys to specialize and not feel like there was only one route to actually make money. They could stay where they were and make money. So you get guys that's just kind of what they're built for. They get out and knock doors all day. Cool. Go do it. Other guys, maybe they're built for other stuff. Or say for me, for example, I don't mind knocking doors, but I don't necessarily love it. There's other things I like doing more than knocking doors. Like I like closing. I like leading more than knocking doors. So I made those focal points of me to transition into leadership and closing because I just didn't want to knock as many doors. And for me, I don't know if it's just because I have an authority problem or what, but every job I've ever had, I've always more or less fast-tracked to the top just because I like to minimize the amount of people to tell me what to do. It's just, I don't like to be told what to do. So I've always kind of minimized that and more or less fast-tracked to the top of companies. It's always been tons of responsibility, and a lot of times more responsibility than what I was paid for. But I was always willing to make that trade-off just because I wanted to be the guy. I don't know why. That's just who I am. I like to be the guy, and I'll do everything I can to be the guy.
Yep.
So, and that's really what I did when I came in. I mean, I made a huge commitment when I came in. I did, obviously you're familiar with 75-day hard. We did a 45-day hard version of it, which actually had more stuff to do in the day. It's just not as long. But there's a couple more tasks that you do during the day. So I committed to the 45-day hard while I was knocking and also doing my director training. So I was doing my full knocking schedule, and then on my free time doing my director training, and then also getting like 2 workouts in a day, and one was outside, and the list this big of shit that I had to do for the 45-day hard. But what it was essentially 6 weeks of full commitment, no excuses, no downtime. I mean, to get everything done, I had to multitask. I had to get creative just to get it done. So if that means doing push-ups, like do a set of push-ups, read a page, do a set of push-ups, read a page, do a set of push-ups, read a page. It's 2:00 in the morning. I haven't gotten my outdoor workout in yet. Well, guess what? You got to go run. And I'm listening to my recording of my director script, while running at 2:00 in the morning, all while dealing with a divorce, and I'm wiping tears from my, eyes as I'm getting it done. But, no excuses. And I'm still eating off of that time. That was 5 years ago that I did that. And I learned about myself that you don't find the time, you make the time. You'll never find the time for the important stuff. It's always, I'll find the time. It just never happens. You got to make the time. If that means staying up till 2:00 in the morning, that's what it means. If it means multitasking, you got to spend time with your kids, but you also committed to a 1 hour outdoor workout, take them to the pool and tread water for an hour. Like, you can get the shit done. You just have to make it happen and be creative. And I don't recommend always having your life be on a red line, but I redlined it for 45 days. And like I said, 5 years later, I'm still eating off of the lessons learned from that. Not only did I turn myself into someone that made like $30,000 a month over that time, what I learned about myself, like just everything that happened in that time frame. And also I did better as a coordinator. Before my last week as a coordinator was my best week as a coordinator before I became a director, which is usually quite the opposite. Normally guys' numbers slip, but I was so dialed in, I was actually doing better as a coordinator. Then I went to director. And then it ended right as I became a director, but it still carried over. I had like another 2 months of closing like at 80% when I first started as a director. Just because it was so much momentum, so much I had paid so much dues in that time that I was just doomed to succeed, So that's a story I like to share with people just because, that was such a valuable learning lesson in my life. And, it's not always about redlining because that's not sustainable, but there are seasons in your life where sometimes you just got to do more than what you're comfortable with, and it's kind of like where we're at in the business right now. It's just, we're more or less in a season of, just getting extra shit done. It's all hands on deck. Now, to kind of project out a little bit, I don't want y'all to get super scared about leadership and closing and stuff, because guess what? There is a light at the end of the tunnel. When I was building up my original office before I became the regional, there was a point where the whole team was on my back. I had to run every appointment. I was working 7 days a week, the whole deal. But you put in enough time and enough effort, and you focus on building your team and being a real leader. Before long, the team grows and builds, and you get all these layers and levels of leadership. And then you get to the point where everything is just operating, and you don't have to run appointments late at night anymore. You don't have to go in on Saturday anymore. You can earn your time off. And that's what, we've done 2 vacations so far this year, which is more vacation time than I've ever had. In fact, this Ecuador trip was the longest vacation I've been on in my life, at 9 days. But those are things we've had planned for like 3 years. So we've had them planned. The one was, or not 3 years, 2 years, but it was our 2-year late honeymoon that we went on. And then we went to Ecuador so I could meet her family. It's my in-laws and stuff. So we did those trips. I'm glad we did those trips, especially the Ecuador one, because I kind of got some perspective that I needed. But we're right back to it. I have no trips planned right now. It's really just like, hey, I'm going to plan a trip soon, but I need to earn the time. Like, any time that we have off, we got to earn that shit. We got to earn everything. Nothing's given. It's all 100% earned. And so those of you, like I said, I don't want you to get too scared of getting into that stuff. Like I said, there's a season for it. And it's kind of like the different levels. How high do you want to go? And there's going to be a season for each one. So for me, as a coordinator into a director into running an office into being a regional into an owner, there has been basically stages of a season of super hard work at the beginning of each one of them. But then it gets to the point where, you learn the roles, you learn the responsibilities, it all becomes second nature, and then you're good to go, So there's going to be seasons of hard, difficult times, but those are what really make the difference. But consistency, something I haven't heard for a while, but I heard Sam Taggart talk about it a lot, is consistency over intensity. Because there's going to be times, like I said, we have seasons where we have to be intense. That's just, it is what it is. It's like, you're going to graduate from college. Well, guess what? You got finals, and you probably are going to be studying for them, So there's times of like a sprint, right? But the consistency, that's more important, because I know guys that they just go up and down, where they'll get super dialed in, kill it for like a month, but they go so hard that they like have to take another month off. So it's just this up and down, and that's hard to manage. Like, you can be the best coordinator in America. I don't want you on our team if we have to deal with that.
Yep.
You go put out $500,000 in a month and do zero the next month. I don't want you.
Yeah.
I'd rather have you do 100,000 or even 80,000 a month instead of being this up and down, because we can lead that, and we could get that trajectory going up. We can get that to 90, get that to 100, get them a couple 150s, get them up to 200 here and there. We can do that. But it's that consistency over time, because it's like the bar graph, and it just kind of slowly goes up. I'd much rather have something slow and gradual than something all over the place like this.
Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of a tangent, if you will. What else?
No, I think that's fine. One thing that I would like to add to that is just, a good way to think about that is just having balance. Moderation is key to everything. Happiest I've ever been in my life is when I have balance. I'm not putting everything into one place. I'm kind of, balancing it out. been in the best shape of my life with no money and terrible relationships. I've had the best relationships of my life with no money and super out of shape. If you can find the balance between your relationships, your health, and your career, that's when everything tends to work out the best.
Start clicking.
And then staying consistent too in that. And because, I think Joe Rogan says, fuck motivation. Consistency is where the magic happens. You can get motivated to go to the gym one day, but if you don't continue going, even when the motivation's not there, you should still continue, because the consistency is what's going to create the habit, and the habit is what's going to carry it on for years and years and years.
I have a screenshot on my phone. It's a graph I took a picture of. It says motivation, and it's got like these big circles, but then they peter out, and then it's got discipline, and it just keeps going. Just keeps going.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's that discipline with like your personal development, with all of that. Because if you're not being disciplined and intentional about that stuff, you're just in default mode. And if you're in default mode, like if you're not growing, you're dying sort of thing. If you're in default mode with your relationship, with your health, or with anything, like that thing is deteriorating fast. So, there will be times of some sprints and things where you can get a little off balance, just because, maybe you took on a bunch of responsibility and you got to transition into it. It is what it is. But you get that consistency over time, and that's how you manage all that stuff. That's how you find the balance, is that whatever that means. It's like, just get up a little bit earlier, because the older you get, now as you have a wife, you have a son, okay? You're starting to notice the world, or you're a leader, okay? Everybody wants a piece of you, okay? Now just project out 5 years from now. Bigger team, more kids. It's not easier. It just gets harder. For you young men, 21, 22, 18, whatever, your life's not going to get easier. You can have all the money in the world and all of that. Like, that's not the complicated stuff. The complicated stuff is relationships. It's having a significant other. It's showing up for them. It's having, if you have children, showing up for them, because there's different versions of you. It's like, there's the version of you that's the salesman. There's a version of you that's the husband. There's a version of you that's the father. And if you're in default mode, you're not going to be the right version at the right time. You're going to, go home and be so burnt out from talking to people all day, you don't want to talk to your family. And it's like, you got to put on that mask. Like, before I walk in the door, I'm like, okay, get into husband mode, get into husband mode, get into husband mode, husband mode, husband mode. And then I walk in and make sure I go give her a kiss, like first thing, and like just try to be in husband mode. And especially as running a business with your significant other, that's definitely not easy. And I know Mallory, the producer of the podcast, is listening to this, and she's probably agreeing, because her and Blake are married and run Blue Form Media together.
It is very difficult, yes.
Yes, it's very difficult, but you definitely get to learn. It's like an expedited learning curve, and if you can get through that, you can get through anything.
Yeah, and I would say, to that point, just circling back a little bit to the spousal support, communication is massive when it comes to that specifically, and finding balance in your relationships. Because one of the things, we talk to people all day. We are social all day long, whether we want to or not. That's how the bills are paid, is by talking to people and sitting across the counter from them, and just putting 100% into every single conversation that you have throughout the day. Sometimes we're working 12-hour days, and we're going from house to house to house, meeting with different people all day long,
giving 100% of ourselves every time.
Exactly. And then you get home, and the first thing that I do when I get home is I put on my dad hat, and I'm dad father of the year. When I get home, first thing I do, I pick him up, we're playing, And then as soon as he goes to bed, one of the things that my wife and I have communicated about is that my, my, the space that I have for being social is somewhat limited. And throughout the day, a lot of times I tap that out and then go over it. And I'm just like forcing myself to be social with people. And, having that in mind, I don't want to rob my spouse of me. And so one thing that we've agreed to is that when I come home, I'm dad. And then after he goes to bed, I need 30 minutes to an hour to just be alone, to just be by myself and to regroup.
Mm-hmm.
And at first that was really hard for both of us, because I would just like shut down for an hour. We never talked about it. There was no communication. It was just like, why are you ignoring me? Why are you shutting down? But the minute that we communicated about that, and I was like, listen, this is what my day looks like every day. And by the time I get home, I'm putting everything into being a dad. After that, I need to have a little bit of time. It's like it clicked for her. And she was like, okay, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I get that. And she's so understanding, but without the communication, without having that dialogue, I can't expect her to read my mind.
Yeah, and she just thinks that you don't care.
Exactly. Yeah, she thinks that I'm like mad at her or ignoring her. I think we all kind of catastrophize a little bit inside of our own minds. We assume the worst. If you're ignoring me, you're mad at me. And it's not always the case. But how is she going to know that unless I communicate with her? So clear communication with your spouse is everything. It goes hand in hand with getting the buy-in from your spouse, is communicating those little nuances and subtle details. And just kind of going off of the spousal support thing, one of the biggest things that you want to be on the same page about with your spouse is your why, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Your reason for doing it, right? If you're not on the same page with your spouse about your direction in life and why you're doing things, and if you're looking at a map and you guys aren't both taking the same path, then it's just never going to work out. I feel like you have, especially in this industry, if you want to make it and if you want to make this your career, my biggest advice would be communicate, make sure that you're on the same page with your spouse on where that is going to lead you, where you want to go, so that you guys can both be moving in the same direction. And if you have family outside of a spouse, get them involved too. Just having the more people moving in the same direction, the quicker that you're going to get there. And the more streamlined it's going to be. It's never going to be super easy, but it's going to be a lot easier when you have that support. Yeah.
Especially when you're in the middle of all the mess and everything. Mm-hmm. When you have clear expectations communicated, you can just refer to them.
Yep.
Just be like, hey,
remember
what we talked about? This is that.
Yep.
We're in the middle of it right now.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's good for a first episode. Is there anything else you'd want to add to it?
No, I think the only other thing that I wanted to go over a little bit, because one of the things that a lot of people are never going to realize is that, you've kind of made this all happen while going through some really crazy personal shit.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things is, your timeline with your health stuff going on. I think your health stuff kind of started early on in your door-to-door career, right? Do you want to do you feel comfortable talking about that a little bit?
I've definitely shared before on podcasts. So I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis almost 11 years ago. So the initial diagnosis, it was like, I'd lost like 25 pounds over a month, and essentially, ended up getting like a diagnosis and everything. And then I went on a 3-year remission and it was good. And I even thought maybe it was a misdiagnosis, you know. However, what had happened was after 3 years, and a lot of it I think had to do with, I mean, there's a lot of factors that will lead into something like that, but I think a lot of it had to do with just issues with my ex relationship. It would just be like big things like wanting to, you know, get divorced. They really had an effect on me. So what happened was after 3 years of remission, I started having these really acute episodes of like these really bad flare-ups. And for those of you that don't know what ulcerative colitis is, it's like a sister disease to Crohn's disease. Essentially, your large intestine, which is also your colon, in ulcerative colitis specifically, will have like inflammation, like ulcers in it. So it can affect certain parts of the colon. Sometimes it's just like one piece of it that it affects. Mine was the entire colon. They call it a pancolitis. So anyway, I started having these really acute episodes to where I'd go from like 190 pounds, like jacked, working out, to like 135 pounds in like a month, like looking like a Holocaust patient. And essentially what happens with the ulcerative colitis, you'll get really bad inflammation in your guts and then you start bleeding. So essentially what it looks like to have a flare up on ulcerative colitis, you're going to the bathroom like 25 times per day and there's blood every time. And every time you eat something or even drink water, it hurts. And so I'd have these times where I'd essentially get hospitalized and lose a bunch of weight and just be in the hospital and, you know, all hooked up on IVs, and all the veins in my hands and arms, they're all completely like just scar tissued. Like I can work out and have like really good vascularity. Like you see all my veins and everything. Try to get a needle in one. That's a different story. And when I go to the hospital, I have to tell them like, look, who is your very best phlebotomist? Because like, if it's not the best, I don't want to be poked 3 times, because that's what it takes to sit there and dig around. And I got to go on Wednesday and get a procedure. And, you know, I got to have the same conversation again. And like, hey, who's the best? And then they'll be like, no, I can do it. That vein looks good. And then they'll do it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was good. Like, it's the same thing every time. But anyway, just really went through a lot, you know. It's kind of hard to describe. Just, it's really like just going through hell, because, you know, you're starving for one. I mean, you can't eat, your digestive system's shut down. Anything you eat, even water, feels like you got a little ball of razor blades and broken glass just moving through your intestines. And any given moment it can kind of feel like you're getting stabbed, you know? So I went through that, and again, had these really acute episodes every about 6 months to a year. And it would be like just dropping off of the edge of a cliff. And one time in particular, I caught an infectious disease at the hospital called C. diff, which is a form of colitis in and of itself. And I mean, my abdomen was like, I would look like a big old pear, and I even had stretch marks for a while because I got so inflamed. That was the scaredest I ever was. Like, I thought I was going to die. I thought I had a toxic megacolon, what I thought. I woke up in the morning and I was like literally out to here, dude. It was crazy. And talk about quarantine, because this was a little bit before COVID, but I mean, like, it was like a proper quarantine for 2 weeks. You couldn't even go in the room without like full PPE and mask and everything. And in the last week, they turned me, I got to go home, so I just quarantined in my room. But with C. diff, its spores come out of like when you go to the bathroom and everything. So like I literally had to wipe with a Clorox wipe.
Whoa.
Yeah, not good. But yeah, so that was pretty hellacious, I would say, going through all of that. And then it was kind of interesting, about 4 years ago, something like that. It went from these really, because what would happen is I would have a really acute episode, drop off a cliff, and then I would rebound and basically assume 100% health again. And I'd be like good for a while. But then I'd have something personal within my former relationship happen, and then boom, another acute episode. And then I started working for our former company. I worked there for 6 months, kicked some ass, took some names. And then I had a really bad flare up, like one of the worst ever. I was bedridden for 2 months. My mom had to come from California and come live with me and like, take care of me and stuff. Cause I had moved out living with my kids and, all of that. And that was part of, I think, why I got sick, was because it was like the realization of like, oh shit, like there's nothing left to fight for. Like this is over, And so anyway, it then turned from an acute issue into a chronic issue. So instead of having these like really, really bad episodes to where I'd like fall off the edge of a cliff, it turned into chronic to where I was still going to the bathroom like 20 times a day and bleeding and stuff, but it wouldn't get so bad to where I'd have to get bedridden and be hospitalized. And I worked all the way through it. So, I was able to become a director before I got sick that time, and then it turned into a chronic issue. But the whole time, earning the right to run the office, earning the right to be a regional director. I mean, I was basically dying the whole time because you bleed that much. I'd have to get blood transfusions every 6 months. They were trying all sorts of biologic medications I was having adverse reactions to. And like they have to monitor you while they give it to you. And they did it twice. They had bad reactions 2 different times to where it's like your body starts shutting down. It's like you start getting tunnel vision and you can feel like your chest, like a bunch of weight on your chest. It's like you're basically dying. Like if I could imagine what it's like to die, that's it. Because you are. Like they're like right there. Pull the plug out the second they see you. The first time they weren't watching so well, and I was actually on a meeting. We used to have a monthly meeting, and I would have 5 minutes where I had to talk during the meeting, and it was my time. They were like, I was up. It was my time, and they had just given me the medication, and it started hitting me, and I was like, literally, my body started shutting down as I was like on the floor for the meeting. So I was like, hey guys, I got to go to the bathroom. Because they knew my deal, Yeah. The guy goes to the bathroom all the time. And it wasn't that important of a meeting anyway. So then I just basically just hit mute and just sat there and, they had to like pull me off and then they had to monitor me for like 3 hours. So I just sat there in the chair for like 3 hours. But yeah, so anyway, went through all of that. I can't tell you how many mornings I felt like absolute death, couldn't even hardly get out of my truck and even make it across the parking lot, let alone in the door, put a smile on my face and go run a jump start, Did it hundreds of times. And I've had a lot of people over time, even my best friend who never sold windows. He's almost 40. He's in the best shape of his life right now because he always smoked and drank, never worked out. He quit smoking, quit drinking. He's been working out for 6 months straight. And he gets up at 4 o'clock every morning. And he told me, he's like, you're my motivation. He's like, dude, I've seen you, like, I'm not even going to say what he said because I don't want to cast a bad light on anyone. But he's like, the sickness that I've seen you deal with and the things that you were dealing with that person in that time, he's like, I would have killed myself. He's like, I have no idea how not only you got through it, but you've also like been able to build a business. Everything that you've done, he's like, it's like you're a superhero. And I don't consider myself anything of the sort. It's really just I made the decision to engage with this life regardless of how I feel. Because being bedridden, your kids are going to grow. Like, go lay in bed for 2 weeks, 2 months. Like, your kids are going to grow. You thought your job needed you? They found someone else. Like, this world is going to go by whether you are a part of it or not. So regardless of how you feel, you can make a decision to engage with this world or not. And I made the decision just to get up off my ass regardless of how I feel, make a life of this regardless. Still, I've gone on trips, take my kids on vacation, gone places with my wife, drag my feet through the city, whatever it is I got to do, feeling like shit, wondering where the next bathroom is. And, it is what it is. Those memories, I don't have bad memories of them. I don't remember feeling like shit the whole time. I remember spending time with my kids or spending time with my wife, Look back at the pictures. I don't remember how shitty I felt in those pictures. I just remember the time, So I just made the decision to, regardless of how I felt, just get up and handle it anyway. It all culminated in I had to get my colon removed, just because, having to get the blood transfusions, and I was also having blood clots because having chronic inflammation for all those years, I started having blood clots. So I'd had blood clots in my lungs, pulmonary emboli. I was coughing up blood, had blood clot in my liver, kidney. So it was like turning into where it was like life-threatening, to where literally I had to be on blood thinners for blood clots, but also I had bleeding problem. That's not like, it's not a good mix of things. So it ultimately led to where I decided to get my colon removed. Now, from the first diagnosis, you have doctors coming in there, surgeons trying to sell you a surgery. And it's almost like used carsmen slapping the top of the car, let's get that colon out, which I'm like, I just got my diagnosis. There's steps. There's things to do before I just go get my colon removed, But my wife, she really was a big influence on it. She's like, you need to have the surgery. You need to have the surgery. And for me, I was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. Because that's a big thing. Like colon, that's kind of like, a big organ, and you just cut it out sort of thing. So, I had to mentally come to terms with it, but also the doctor. I just needed the right doctor. And it wasn't, and it's really just how sales works. Like the new age of sales is exactly how he was able to essentially get my business. He had a conversation with me, and it was almost like he was trying to disqualify me. And after a 20-minute conversation, he said, you know what? I don't want to put any pressure on you, but based off of like my opinion, you need surgery. And I said, based off of this conversation, I feel like I need surgery too. Let's get it. But he wasn't trying to push it on me. He just conversationally had a conversation with me and made a recommendation, and the recommendation made sense, and I took it, And that's really all we do for sales. We have a conversation with people, we figure out what the problems are and how those problems can be solved, and then we make a transaction. And that's all I needed. I just needed someone to talk to me like a human being and help me and not sell me. And that's really, what my kind of philosophy is with sales, is like, look to help people. Don't look to sell them, especially like even like a door knocker or coordinator. Be out there to help someone, and you're going to find yourself in the right place with the right people. If you're out there just to make sales, people can feel it. They can feel the commission breath. They can feel that you're desperate, and they're turned off by it. As much as you feel like you're not portraying that and conveying that, you are. You just are. So just be genuinely out there, like wanting to help them. Like, don't worry about your paycheck. The more you focus on your paycheck, the more it's going to be a problem. The more you focus on just doing the right things, all money is a byproduct of doing the right shit. That's all it is. Yeah. And so, with what people look for in today's day and age, and probably throughout the course of history, it's just that, it's more prolific now in terms of how to sell, is we sell by helping people. We have conversations, we figure out what their problems are, we solve those problems. We have them value our product and service more than they value their money. That's all it is. And they feel like we help them, they don't feel like we sold them. And I don't like feeling like I sold anybody. I like feeling like I help people, And for me, like the integrity and everything, yeah, we're in sales, we're in high commission sales, but to do things the right way, and especially the initial conversations we had when you joined the business, it's like, look, let's do this the right way. Even our former company, they do a lot of things really good, but we're like, how can we look at the things that, whether it's leadership or even just the integrity and the information we give people, how can we line this thing up to be like, we're just operating off of integrity. What we tell people, that's the truth. There's no like, kind of half truth to it or whatever. It's just strictly integrity, because whether it's our customers, it's our sales reps, whatever it is, we want to make sure everybody's bought in. Everybody believes in what we're doing. We're not just out there, with some random pitch. What we tell people is the truth. We're going to do a total of 2 homes in this neighborhood, and then we're going to move on. That's what we're going to do. We're going to honor everything that we do, and it's much more easier for people to have the conviction and belief in what we do, and we're going to that's how we attract these like-minded people, But we got to get this information out to people. They got to know who we are and what we're about, because it's enough for them to know us and be attracted that way, but that's not scalable. We're not going to be able to reach as many people, and we're not going to be able to reach the goals that we want either. We just don't know enough people. We're not that cool. But utilizing the podcast, utilizing Blue Form Media, it's going to be a huge avenue, a huge tool to really get the message out there, let people know what we're about, and start attracting the like-minded people into the organization.
I agree.
Yeah.
Awesome transition, man. I think that's a really fine place to end our first episode.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you jumping on.
Of course.
And appreciate y'all for listening. And the name of the podcast, Behind the Knock. So that is what we're going with for now. It may change, but I like it. Drake came up with it, and it's got a ring to it. So yeah. I think we'll run with it.
We'll see how it goes.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in.